In this video, I want to talk about how you can prevent issues with your beneficiary forms so that everything you have goes to exactly who you want it to go to. Now, you may have clicked on this video because you've seen that sort of thing happen in your own family. Your parent or grandparent or your spouse's parent or grandparent thought that they had things set up in a certain way, and then it didn't go exactly as they had said they thought it would when they're no longer here. And that came about because the beneficiary forms didn't match what they thought they had put in place. And so I want to talk about how you can prevent that sort of thing from happening to you. And you've got to start by knowing exactly where you want your estate to go, knowing where each asset or account is going to go, knowing how that asset or account gets handled under the beneficiary form or under your trust or your will, and then comparing that, what you want, to what is actually in place so that you can update anything that is not in sync. So the steps that you need to take are to, first of all, make a list of your total estate, make a list of where you want that to go, and then make a list if there's any assets that you want to go to a particular person or particular people, make a list of what that is. Then compare that to your will and your trust. Does everything match? Have there been some changes since the last time you updated your will and trust? And if so, then you need to get those documents updated and make sure that everything is, in sync. Also get a copy of every beneficiary form for every account. Compare what is on that beneficiary form to your wishes. Is there anything that is out of sync? Compare what's on the beneficiary form to your will or your trust. Is everything in sync? Because even if you put something in your will or trust, and you may have done that after the beneficiary form is still going to supersede. It's going to be what controls that particular account. So you've got to make sure that the beneficiary form is up to date with your wishes and matches your estate plan. Otherwise, it's not going to be carried out the way that you want it to. Once you know what needs to be updated, you can get new beneficiary forms. You can update that so that it matches what you want. If you need to update your legal documents, get those updated. And then you need to put a copy of everything in one place. Now, it would be good to have it all in one, maybe a fire safe box or something like that. Plus, have a copy online that is easy to get to. And that could be in an online vault that you share with your advisor. For all of my clients, I've got copies of these documents and we've got all of it in the online vault so that if something happens to them, their beneficiaries can call me and it will be an easy first step to look at all the information and then begin to lay out what's the first step, the second step, the third step, what things need to be done, and in what order do we need to do them in to make sure that everything is carried out efficiently and according to plan. So, get a copy of everything and put it in an online vault, make it easy to access. And this is really important when there may be some accounts that one of the spouses is not a joint owner on. I just saw a question online where a spouse was saying that her husband had passed away recently and she thinks the beneficiary of an online account set up in an online bank, and yet they won't talk with her. Now, that could be because she's not the beneficiary. It could be that there's not even a beneficiary on that account. It could be that there's some other hoops that have to be jumped through before she's able to talk to them. But it sounded like they were indicating that she's going to have to go through probate to get to that account. And if so, that is not what she thought her plan was. Of course, it's not one of my clients, so I don't have all the details. But for that type of situation that can come up, it's really important to have all of your documents in one place. She doesn't even have a copy of a beneficiary document, so she doesn't know. And so if you've got all the documents in one place, you've got copies of everything, have spelled out anything that might be special instructions, and especially if you have an advisor you're working with who has copies of everything as well, then your beneficiaries will be at a really good starting point because they'll know what they need to know. They won't be having to start by trying to find the information. So that is an important step. The last thing I want to encourage you to do is think about a couple things. One is, what if things don't play out the way that we often think they're going to play out? Your beneficiaries might be very healthy and very active, and you're anticipating that they're going to live far beyond the point in time that you do. But what if one of your beneficiaries passes away before you, or one of your beneficiaries is disabled when it comes time for them to inherit? They could be in an accident, not make it, pass away in that accident, or become disabled in that accident, and that could change the plan. And you want to know, if that happens, what then happens to the plan? What do you want to have happen to the plan? And then what does happen? Does their share automatically go to their children, or does it go to the other beneficiaries? What is the automatic under the documents, the beneficiary forms? And what would you want to have happen? Do those things match up? Or do you need to stipulate some other instructions so that in the event this unlikely event happens, that things get carried out the way that you want them to get carried out? The other thing that I want to encourage you to think about is maintaining some flexibility and control over any changes you might want to make. I've seen some situations over the years where people put in place some very rigid plans at the, recommendation of attorneys and other advisors that they were working with. And then later in life, those plans were no longer what they wanted to have happen. Maybe they wanted to change some percentages. Maybe they needed to make some other changes to the way some of the things were going to flow because there had been other changes within the family. And they were finding it difficult to do that because they didn't maintain the flexibility and control that allowed them to do that later. Now, there can be good tax reasons to make some of these inflexible plans, but you want to make sure that you understand how that's going to impact down the road if there are other changes that you want to have happen. You want to make sure that you're thinking through not just the current, but you're thinking through the long term. Because in some of these situations, some of the tax planning that was trying to be solved for doesn't exist anymore. Those things have totally changed under different tax laws. And yet, they don't have the ability to make some of those changes to the estate plan. And so, while it's always good to think very deeply through all of the advice that you're getting, you also want to think very deeply through how you maintain flexibility and control over all of your lifetime so that as things change, you can change with it. Now, those are some things that I want you to think about with your estate plan. Make sure you know who you want it to go to. Make sure you know how your current documents would cause your estate plan to flow. And then if there's changes that are needed, you need to change your documents or you need to change your beneficiary forms, you get that done as soon as possible. And then put all of that in a safe place, have all of your copies organized, and that will set you up to be on your best path with your beneficiaries.